Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to another video in my Crime-a-ween series. All this week I am posting new true crime content every single day, leading to a multi-part series finale that you do not want to miss. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and turn those post notifications on. That way you can be informed of every time I post a brand new video. And in today's video, we are going to be continuing with the theme of this series, which is crimes that occurred on or around Halloween. Today we are going to be discussing the case of Joel Lovelien. The state of North Dakota has more bars per capita than anywhere else in the United States, making going out for some drinks a very popular pastime, especially around the holidays. On Saturday, October 27th of 2007, a group of about 40 to 50 people had hired a charter bus to take them around Grand Forks, North Dakota. They were in the mood to celebrate Halloween, and their costumes varied widely. Someone was dressed as a lion, they had a cowboy, a gangster, someone was even dressed as Paris Hilton. They really wanted to enjoy their night without having to worry about transportation, and I guess they didn't believe in the old-fashioned pub crawl, or maybe all of the bars were widely spaced out. Either way, they wanted to throw their money at renting a charter bus. I'm not judging. That charter bus quickly turned into a party bus. They had multiple trays of Jello shots on board, and everyone was indulging themselves and having a really good time. One of the stops the charter bus made was at the Broken Drum Bar and Grill, where 38-year-old Joel Lovelien and his fiancée Heather were out having a good time and celebrating Halloween. Joel Heath Lovelien was born on October 8th of 1969 to his parents Marvin and Judy in Bismarck, North Dakota. He would go on to graduate from the University of North Dakota Grand Forks with a degree in math and computer science. On March 20th of 1992, Joel actually married a woman named Heidi, and they had one daughter together named Alexa. However, their marriage didn't work out, but they remained amicable and co-parented their daughter. So even though he and his ex-wife were on good terms, Joel was still hesitant about getting married again. That is until he met Heather. The two had apparently met sometime in 2006 and were already planning their wedding for August 8th of 2008. He was described as being a kind man with a big heart, and he adored spending time with his daughter Alexa, as well as his family and friends. He enjoyed golf and bowling, and his favorite hockey team was the University of North Dakota Fighting Sioux. So on October 27th, Heather and Joel dressed in their Halloween costumes before making their way down to the Broken Drum. Heather dressed as a mechanic, and Joel put on his favorite team's hockey jersey, which was a green color, so you really couldn't miss it. Joel and Heather were enjoying the party at the Broken Drum. They had played a few hands of blackjack, were having some drinks. Joel had even smoked a cigar. Around 11:30 p.m., Joel received a call on his cell phone, so he told Heather he was going to step outside to take it. Like I said earlier, the party bus had pulled up at the Broken Drum by this point, and it was very loud inside. When Joel gets back into the bar, he goes up to Heather and he tells her that he thinks the party bus had left someone outside and he was going to go check on them, make sure that they were okay. He gave Heather a kiss on the cheek and then walked out the door once again. Just a few minutes later, a patron of the Broken Drum would run back inside the bar, screaming that someone needed to call 911. Someone outside desperately needed help. At this point, Heather couldn't find Joel, so she approached one of the bouncers and asked if they would mind looking with her. She never thought that it would be Joel who needed the help, but once she got outside, she realized that she was wrong. Joel was laying on the ground unresponsive and had blood all over the concrete around his face. Now we are at the part where I'm going to give my disclaimer that what I'm going to say next is going to be graphic, so if you are sensitive to that type of information, please go ahead and skip ahead about 30 seconds to a minute. Joel actually worked at a nearby hospital as a computer technician, and it was here that he was declared deceased. The doctor said that he was beaten so badly, the bones in his face were broken, causing him to choke to death on his own blood. Joel had sustained injuries to his face, his head, and his upper torso, but none to his extremities, and he had no offensive wounds on his body, meaning he was likely the victim of a surprise attack. They also didn't find any blood on his pants. Now, this suggested that he would have had to have been laying down when bleeding started. And with the extent of his injuries and lack of blood on his pants, someone must have taken him down quickly. But as we are going to discuss in a few minutes, this would have been pretty difficult to do because Joel was a big guy. He was 6'3" and 240 pounds. So make of that with what you will. Police arrived quickly at the Broken Drum, where the party bus had left, but there were still witnesses at the bar, and they were able to tell police that a clown, a construction worker, a cowboy, and a gangster had been seen around Joel and the party bus. Also at the scene, police found a yellow cloth with a spot of blood on it. Now, this piece of cloth looked like the paw or foot of someone's costume. Right away, they had two leads that they were following: this yellow piece of cloth and this weird cast of characters. So the first person of interest that the police were able to track down was the clown. Now, this was a man by the name of John Diesel, and he was at another bar in Grand Forks. When they walked in, they saw Diesel, who was visibly upset. He was crying and shaking, and this behavior seemed extremely suspicious to the officers. When they questioned him about this, he said that he had a fight with his girlfriend. However, one of the officers present would later state that Diesel said, "I guess things got out of hand tonight, didn't it?" Law enforcement continued to ask their questions, and as the questioning continued, Diesel decided that he would stop answering and demand his lawyer. Next to be found on the hunt for the village people was the cowboy. This was a man called Bryce Larson, who actually organized the party bus that night. But when police approached him, he gave them a fake name and date of birth. He also became physically aggressive. Now, this could be because he was very drunk and didn't really want police around. He was placed in handcuffs while they were questioning him, but he was never arrested. Before police provided any details about what happened at the Broken Drum, Bryce asked them, "Is this about the man wearing the green hockey jersey?" So police thought, hey, this guy might have more information or even have witnessed the fight in the parking lot. While it was important to find Joel's killer, police decided to call it quits for the evening. They had a crying clown, a combative cowboy, and all of their witnesses were extremely drunk. So they thought it would be the best strategy to call them into the police station the following day on Sunday, October 28th. And it turns out that this was a wise decision. When Diesel and Larson and all of the other witnesses came into the station, they were much more calm and cooperative. The police determined that they did not have anything to do with the murder of Joel Lovelien and were able to exonerate other partygoers as well. However, both Larson and Diesel said that a friend of theirs called James Wavera had actually gotten into a fight that night at the Broken Drum. The only thing that Larson and Diesel knew about the other person involved in this fight was that they were in a crude lion costume made out of a yellow hoodie. Now remember, there was that piece of yellow fabric found in the parking lot at the Broken Drum. The two said that the lion missed a punch at Wavera before being banned from the party bus. But when you're drunk, things seem like a much bigger deal than they actually are. Larson decided that just banning this person from the party bus wasn't enough. He wanted to confront him. So he grabbed two friends. One was called Mitchell Dolan and another was Josh Diesel. Now, this is John Diesel's brother. John is the crying clown. I know there's a lot of names in this video, but I'm trying my best here. So Larson, along with Dolan and Josh Diesel, took off to go confront this lion. However, they noticed that he was standing near Joel Lovelien. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Joel was a really big guy, and at this point, the three men decided that this was not worth it. They did not have enough liquid courage quite yet to confront someone with someone so physically intimidating standing nearby. They claimed that they had started a casual conversation with Joel, chatting about mindless things like hockey and other just random little tidbits. When they got back on the party bus, Joel was speaking to the man in the lion costume, and the three also claimed that there was an unknown white male in costume in the parking lot as well. Now, upon hearing this, investigators wanted to speak to the man in the lion costume. I don't even think they knew his name, so tracking him would be a little bit difficult. However, they didn't have to wait long. 2 days after Joel was murdered, a 23-year-old nursing student from the University of North Dakota walked into the station and said that he was the man in the lion costume and he heard the police were looking for him. And his name was Travis Stay. He stated that that night he had an altercation with James Wavera, and he tried to punch him, but he missed, which was corroborated by the witness statements, but James was actually able to land a punch on him. He had bruises on his face and cuts on his hands, and he told the investigators that he had thrown away the lion hoodie because it was covered in blood. Stay went on to tell NBC News that he let the police recover his hoodie and gave them his shoes with no warrant and no lawyer present. He claimed it was because he was innocent. Now, he did admit to getting very drunk that night, and while he did not remember even talking to Joel, he said that there was no way he could have hurt him. Witnesses stated that they did not see a physical confrontation between Travis Stay and Joel Lovelien, but a man would later come forward stating that as Stay was walking home that evening, he tried to punch him in the face. Now, he missed, and the man actually went back inside to grab something to defend himself with and went back outside. I don't know what was going on that Halloween night, but apparently he wanted to show Stay that, he was not going to take that laying down. However, when he got back outside, Stay was gone. So we know that he was in at least 2 physical altercations that evening, and he had missed both times. Police rushed Stay's clothing off for DNA analysis, and when they got it back, it actually showed that some of Joel's blood was on the hoodie as well as Stay's pants, specifically in the crotch of the pants, both in the front and in the back. Now, this would have indicated that he had been standing over Joel at some point that evening. He was arrested and charged with murder, and prosecutors were willing to cut him a deal. They said if he pled guilty to manslaughter, he would serve less than 10 years in prison, but he immediately turned this down because he knew he was innocent. So when the trial of Travis Stay commenced, the prosecution took the tactic of painting him as a very angry man. They said that he was humiliated that he had lost a fight with Wavera, and when Joel rushed to help Travis, he turned on him and murdered him in the parking lot of the Broken Drum. However, the jury wasn't quite convinced. Like I mentioned earlier, Joel was a big guy. He was 6'3", 240 pounds, and Travis Stay was much smaller. I believe he was about 5'8", 5'9", and he weighed 80 pounds lighter. And remember the blood evidence on Joel. There was none on his pants, indicating that whoever did this had to have acted very, very quickly. A blood splatter expert would testify for the defense, and they stated that the blood found on Stay's clothing could have gotten there if he were trying to help Joel after he had been attacked. They also stated that the cuts found on Travis's hands were not severe enough if Travis had beaten someone to death. The defense's strategy was to try and put the blame on other people from the party bus, specifically James Wavera and Josh and John Diesel. They claimed that while Stay was being beaten, Joel had run to his defense and the men had turned on him instead. The prosecution also made another error when they presented their timeline of events for that night. They claimed that the party bus had already left at the time Joel was attacked. However, surveillance footage showed John Diesel, the man in the clown costume, leaving the Broken Drum 3.5 minutes after Joel would last leave. Everyone that was interviewed all stated that John Diesel was on the party bus when it left the bar, meaning it would have been entirely possible for someone in that group to have committed this crime. The bouncer also stated that when he went outside to assist Heather, the party bus was still in the parking lot. On Wednesday, December 17th of 2008, after a 9-day trial, the jury was back from deliberations. They had only deliberated for 5 hours before they acquitted Travis Stay in the murder of Joel Lovelien. Both the prosecution and the police believed that a guilty man walked free, and they closed the case, and prosecutors even destroyed the evidence. And Joel's fiancée Heather was devastated by the verdict. She wanted to know, if Travis Stay did not murder Joel, who did? And why did he have blood in that weird spot on his pants? It didn't fit to her. Someone knows what happened in the parking lot of the Broken Drum that night. But everyone on the party bus was cleared by police pretty quickly. Also, no one was reported as having blood on them. However, it was Halloween. Someone's costume could have consisted of fake blood, and no one would have thought anything of it. Also, around the time that Joel was murdered, the party bus was getting ready to leave. I find it highly unlikely that all 40 to 50 passengers were in the Broken Drum until the very last second. So why has no one come forward? After Travis Stay was acquitted in the murder of Joel Lovelien, he decided to change career trajectories and went to law school, during which time he was clerking for one of his defense attorneys. He did offer a public apology to Joel's family, stating that he was sorry he had too much to drink that night and was part of the equation of what happened, but he did not kill Joel. There are 3 theories of what could have happened to Joel Lovelien on October 27th. The first is that the strange white man that no one knows had something to do with his death. And they have gotten away with it for all of these years. No one even knows who they are. The second theory is that Travis Stay really did murder Joel Lovelien and either just doesn't remember it because he was so drunk, or had his defense team expertly play the "I was drunk, I don't remember" card. I personally find this theory unlikely. Like I said earlier, Travis was much smaller than Joel, and he was also extremely drunk. Now, I don't know how much Joel had to drink that night, but he and Heather weren't planning on staying at the bar very long because he had his daughter's confirmation the next day. So it's safe to assume that Joel was less drunk than Travis Stay. We know in the 2 confirmed altercations that night, Travis missed both times. And let's say that the same happened with Joel. He tried his first punch and it missed. This would have given Joel opportunity to fight back, but he had no offensive wounds on his body. Remember, someone had to have taken him down very, very quickly. Blood on Travis's pants could have pointed to him helping Joel. He was a nursing student, and even though he was very drunk, he could have thought in his head that he could have still helped in some way. So he could have been running over to Joel to check on him or to try and begin any assistance that was needed. The third and final theory is that the hunter, the construction worker, and the clown murdered Joel Lovelien. That is James Wavra, John Diesel, and his brother Josh Diesel, or someone else from the party bus. I personally find this theory the most likely because all of the evidence points to a group attack. He was taken down quickly. He didn't have a chance to fight back. But that is just my own personal opinion. I'm curious to know what you guys think happened to Joel Lovelien in the parking lot of the Broken Drum. And with that being said, we are at the end of another video. I'm curious to know what you guys think happened to Joel that night. Please let me know down in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel if you have not already. I will be back tomorrow with another video in Crimeween. And until then, bye.